Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me today. This is Real Leather Certified Career Coach. Our topic today is something a question that I've been getting lately, and it's because it's graduation season and a lot of recent grads are still in the planning stages or the panic stages. So this is geared more towards those who are entering the workforce and do not have the experience in interviewing. So we're going to break this down and kind of give you a framework so that you can prepare properly. So this is how to present yourself in an interview. How to talk in an interview is a common question that I got. And I thought, what does that mean? And well, there was an assumption that the resume and the interview and the job search was all the important part. And because I've been in the workforce for so long, I tend to forget that there are people still entering and not quite familiar with the actual steps of how to present themselves in an unfamiliar environment and present their best side. So we're going to tackle that today. So this is how to talk in an interview. All right, so our objectives for today. I'm looking over here because this is where my notes are set. This is where my laptop is. So our objectives. Today we're going to talk about how to do an interview and to understand that an interview is a conversation and not an interrogation, right? You coming in, you are also expected to ask questions, as they will ask you questions, the employer, and for you to discuss those topics that each side is interested in finding out. So again, an interview is not an interrogation. You are expected to ask questions as well, because you are trying to get to know what the other side is offering, and they want to know what you're bringing to their company to contribute, how you will contribute. Okay. 2 is we're going to learn the importance of engagement in an interview. And again, if you're engaged, you're having that conversation. And when you are engaged, you are showing your motivation, you're curious, you're vested, you become a more interesting person. And that's important. And then we are going to kind of touch on the importance of being curious. When you're curious, that means you will do research, you will be motivated, and you are interested in finding a solution to all of the challenges in front of you. That's one of the key things that employers look for. And then, of course, we're going to talk about how to frame your answers so that you are answering their questions with more than just a yes or a no, and that you are engaging them in this conversation. So there's a lot to cover in a very short time, so let's jump in. They will likely ask you about their company and what you know about. And this is not the time for you to say, I don't really know much about your company and just hoping to learn more about your company during this conversation. That's not the time for you to be learning about their company. The expectation is that you've applied for the job, so you must know a little something about their company, their mission, their positioning in the industry, and have an idea of how you will contribute to that. If that's the expectation, that means you have to do your research ahead of time. If you do your research ahead of time, you should be able to come up with an answer similar to this, okay? Well, from my research, I've learned that your company is leading in the area of XYZ, whatever that company, whatever the industry is. And I'm most curious about your positioning in XYZ and how this department will contribute to that project or program or mission. From that brief sentence or statement, you have conveyed you have done your research, that you're interested, you're motivated, and you're curious. And then that sets up a conversation that's going to be engaging. Okay? All right. Next area that they will likely ask you about is yourself. Tell me about yourself is a common thing that's going to be requested. And if that is where you're kind of stuck, I have a few other recordings on that so that you can find. But for today, we are going to talk about a common question that we get is, what's your weakness? Or tell us about a weakness that you have. Now, first thing you want to make sure is whatever the weakness is that you decide to choose cannot be something that will hinder the role that you are applying for. So you have to do ahead of time an assessment of your skills. Why did you choose this industry? Why did you choose your degree program? What was it that made you say, yeah, I'm going to spend the next 4 years studying this and learning about this? So you have to tap back into your own motivation, right? What was it? Okay, so way ahead of time, I would suggest that you do some kind of self-reflection, right? Take a self-assessment on your talents, your skills in your area. What are you good at? What are you good at that is relevant to this role, to this hobby? Was it something that started when you were young and that you loved to build things? You were curious about how things work? Or was it something that you were always a people person and that you love communicating with people? What was it? Okay. So having taken a self-assessment and research about the company, you could come up with something like, I have recognized that I have room for improvement in the area of, I'm making progress in improving my approach. And so I'm continually learning and growing professionally, and I'm looking for ways to challenge myself to move up to the next level. Something like that. Because what this is really asking is, are you self-aware of where you are, where you would need support, or how you are coming across to others? So this is about self-awareness. Okay? And again, it cannot be something that's going to hinder the success of the role you're applying for. The next topic we're going to talk about is, why are you looking for new employment? Well, if you are just out of school, the answer is obvious. This is your first grown-up job and you are looking to start your career and you're looking for opportunity that's going to be able to set you up to learn more about the industry and offer ways for you to apply your knowledge. But if you are unemployed, in the middle of unemployment, and you were fired or laid off, if you were laid off as part of the federal downsizing, well, you're not alone. That's pretty obvious there. But if you were let go, there really isn't a way to hide that, but you can start off by saying something like, well, my role ended and I'm now looking for new opportunities to continue my work in XYZ and ways to apply my experience working with a team like yours who are leaders in this industry. Hopefully they'll buy that and not push for more details. That's one way to get to kind of get around if you have been let go or terminated. Other areas that they may be asking you about is previous jobs. What did you like best and what did you like least? Okay, this can be a tricky question. And we never want to say anything negative about previous employers, because then they'll start to wonder, if you were to leave, would you be saying similar things about them, right? We want to show that you are always a positive addition to an organization. So you don't say anything that is going to be negative, and you don't really name anything that you dislike. So frame an answer similar to this. Each role challenged me and helped me identify areas in which I was able to improve. What I liked best was when I was able to contribute robustly to the team's goals and learning from other team members. I know it's a little generic, but hopefully they will take that, and most of them will go, great, and they'll move on to the next question. What they're looking for is authenticity and enough details to get to know you as the type of team member you're going to be should they hire you. They want to know that you come prepared. They want to know that you can communicate, willing to collaborate, and that you are authentic. Okay, keep those in mind. All right, we're almost done here. Okay, salary question. Sometimes in an interview, they'll toss out a question like, what is your salary expectation? If they haven't told you or haven't shared what the salary expectation is, well, it's really unrealistic for them to just pinpoint. However, the expectation is that you have done some research on the salary range for your metropolitan area, for the industry, for the level of experience you're bringing in. But again, it is somewhat unfair for them to kind of ask you that question at this point. So you can say something like, would you explain your compensation package? The salary is just one component of the package, and I would like to learn more before targeting a number so that I can get a realistic picture. You have just returned the ball in their court, and so if they want to pursue this conversation, you've just asked them for a salary range in the package. They opened up the conversation, or they opened up the topic. So it's their call. They can either move on to the next topic, or address it in that moment. Okay? Either way, it's in their court. All right. So just recap on takeaways. Okay. What I want you to walk away with. 1, preparation. Prepare by doing your research for commonly asked questions, right? If you don't know what those are, we just went through some of them, and you can always find them online. What are the most common employer questions? And of course, we have our friend ChatGPT, so you can always throw that in there. But make sure that you adjust the answers that ChatGPT gives you, because you do not want to sound robotic. Okay? Again, authenticity is very important in job interviews. Organizations are looking for people that they can trust and they can rely on. And presenting yourself as something that you are not isn't going to bode well for you. All right, second takeaway, lead with positive when you are answering. If they're asking you a question and your initial gut answer is no, pause. Don't lead with an I can't or I won't. Lead with, this is an area that I'm looking to learn more about, or this is an area where my previous company started, but we weren't able to continue it. So if this is an opportunity that exists with your organization, this is something that I'm motivated to learn. Something like that, where you lead with the positive. Okay. And then, of course, what this whole conversation has been about, be engaging. It's not an interrogation, it is a conversation. Show curiosity, be positive and optimistic. Be authentic. And if you have to practice these answers, do so. I suggest all the time that you practice on video, record yourself so that you can see how you are coming across. They want someone natural. They want someone prepared, someone who is curious and understands. Okay? I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, drop me a comment below, or you can email me as well, as most of you are. But again, if you have a question, likely others too, so drop it in the comments. Okay? And for my introverts, I know it's hard, but try. All right? I'll see you the next one. Thanks so much.